Tilehurst End podcast
by Reading fans for Reading fans.
Hello and welcome to the final Tilehurst End podcast extra of 2017 in association with the Working in Paper. I am your host Olly Allen, and I'm pleased to say that I'm joined once again by the Working in Paper's Tom Crocker. Tom, hi, how are you?
Hi Ollie, good thanks. Good to hear you got your voice back after last week.
Yeah, definitely. I think we were both sort of under the weather last week, so there was no show. But we will go back a week and a half ago, roughly, to start the show, looking back at the 2-2 draw at Cardiff. It's been a pretty underwhelming sort of week and a half since we last spoke before that Cardiff game. Reading once again unchanged against Cardiff, and they were 2-0 up at half-time, thanks to goals from Mo Barron and an own goal from Callum Patterson. But they do always say that 2-0 lead is the most dangerous lead to have in football, and sure enough, Cardiff did score twice in the final 10 minutes of the game to take a point back from Berkshire. Now, Tom, we spoke before the game about saying how we suggested that maybe a point against the promotion chasing Cardiff side probably would have been a good result, but really Reading should have seen this game out, shouldn't they? Yeah,
when you're 2-0 up, not necessarily just 2-0 up, but 2-0 up that close to the end, you definitely want to be seeing out, and I think it's just puts a bit of a dampener on it, really. Like I said before the game, I don't think they would have been too upset at a draw, maybe, but yeah, just for the players, it must have been so tough to take, because I think it just felt so similar to last season for me. There's so many of those games where teams get one back against Reading, it's 2-1 at home, and they manage to see it out somehow. And this year they just couldn't see out this time. I suppose it catches up with you in the end. But yeah, it felt very similar to quite a few of those sort of games where they get 2-0 up and sort of sit on it a little bit. I think they're defending far too deep at the start of the second half and just inviting Cardiff onto them, and I suppose you sort of had to expect some sort of reaction from Cardiff. They're up the top for a reason, and they battled back well. But yeah, it's just it couldn't see it out, and that probably sums up why they're in mid-table at the moment rather than pushing up towards the top end. And as I say, as a point, it kept the sort of unbeaten run going. But yeah, I think most people left pretty disappointed that they couldn't come away with all 3 points, which could have given them a good boost and pushed them up the table a bit.
Yeah, I think you said there how it sums up how Reading are in mid-table. It also sums up how Cardiff are flying high this season as well. I think obviously that certainly that first goal was coming throughout the second half. Obviously Reading probably perhaps quite surprised to be 2-0 up at the break, but I think you could certainly see that Cardiff goal coming, and to get a second goal as well for them shows just how they will be right up there at the end of the season.
Yeah, it's just sloppy defending as well at the end. I think they've thrown a lot of bodies forward, and obviously Liam Moore's been great this season. But I think he sort of lost his man a little bit right at the death, and it's hit the bar and come out. And again, Tomlin unmarked, and he smashed it in. And yeah, it's just panic stations really at the back, and they very nearly went at the other end, Reading, and nicked it again straight afterwards. But I think, yeah, it just sums up where the two sides are in the league. That's the sort of thing that happens when you're at the top. You get that little bit of luck, and you grind back the results, and when you're struggling a little bit, you can't quite get the wins, and that's been the story of the season, really. Not picking up points they should have done, and not winning the tight games which they did last year. And yeah, so it just sort of summed it all up in a few minutes, really. It's just a frustrating night as well. It's just to beat a top team would have been a real statement and a boost to the squad as well, I think. And to throw it away like that was just disappointing. Just disappointing evening, really.
Absolutely, yeah. So then last weekend, of course, Reading then travelled up to Ipswich, hoping to make amends for that late collapse against Cardiff. But unfortunately, it wasn't to be. Yapstam made one change, bringing in Tyler Blackett for Liam Kelly. But unfortunately, Reading found themselves 1-0 down after just 3 minutes through Callum Connolly scored for Ipswich, and then it was 2-0 before the half-hour mark as Joe Garner scored. Reading did have a couple of chances to score themselves. I think Dave Edwards and Sonny Aluko both had a couple of decent opportunities, but overall this was a fairly lacklustre performance, and certainly not the response they were looking for after the Cardiff game.
Yeah, I think we saw what Cardiff did when they were 2-0 down at half-time, and Reading just didn't do the same sort of thing, really. They didn't show that, they didn't sort of batter the door down and demand that they were going to score again. You say that Dave Edwards had that chance in the first half. That was probably the clearest one of the whole game, and they just couldn't really find a way back into it. I mean, Ipswich are a decent team, but I think the first goal, I know Joey's been called out maybe a little bit for it, but I think he got left a bit unprotected, to be honest. He got sort of played around 1-2, and it was a decent enough finish. Still possibly could have been saved maybe, and then another goal from a corner, which has been a bit of a problem going back through this season. And yeah, from 2-0 they just didn't really ever look like getting back into it, which is obviously the worry. You have to maybe look at the options, and you say it was made one change to the team, and the team's been ticking along nicely. But you imagine now with the busy period coming up and the the fact they've lost this unbeaten run now, they might change it up a little bit, and because it was just not a great performance. They didn't really deserve anything from it, and that's been the case on a few of the away trips this season.
Yeah, definitely. I think obviously we went into that Cardiff game having beaten Sunderland, having beaten Barnsley, but taking just 1 point from those 2 games now leaves Reading currently 14th on 27 points. And they pretty much sort of defined it. We were speaking a couple of minutes ago about how they define the term mid-table team. They are exactly that. They are exactly 10 points from the bottom 3 and 10 points from the top 6. Does that sort of sum up where they are at the moment? Obviously, the relegation fears have been eased, and it seems very, very unlikely that we are going to go down. But at the same time, they're probably not quite good enough this season to make the playoffs, and just because they're a little bit too inconsistent.
Yeah, that's the key word. I think inconsistent. In speaking about it all season, they get a bit of momentum going, and then suffer a couple of games like they've just had, and it's just been the story of the season. If you keep doing that, you'll end up in mid-table. I don't think the table at this stage of the season lies really. It's where they deserve to be. They've shown some good signs, some good wins, obviously at Leeds and Derby, and then just not being able to back it up for a sustained period of time. And after dropping so many points early on, you have to get on a good run if you want to climb up towards that playoff push. I mean, yes, it's not sort of out of the question yet. There's still a long way to go. I think the next 2 weeks will be quite key. So sort of 4 games in that time, and if you win them all, you're looking great. If you lose them all, you're looking over your shoulder again. So it's going to be a big 2 weeks. But right now, yeah, it's hard to see them getting involved deeply at either end of the table. Really, they seem to be picking up a couple of results and then dropping a couple, and then just sort of ticking along, which I suppose it's a relief after the way the season started. But they want to try and get on a bit of a run and push up towards the top end, but it just seems to falter every time they get close.
Yeah, I am a very big believer of the sort of the term. It's more how you finish the season than you start it. But
yeah.
But to be honest, I think, and obviously we saw the teams such as Reading in 2011-12 obviously getting on a very good late run towards the end of the season. But I think that's really sort of an anomaly in a sense. I think
2012 probably is a bit of an anomaly, but there always is teams in the second half of the season that can go on a bit of a run, and Reading tend to be one of those teams. But when you look at the sides that are in and around them, there's a lot of good teams that are as good, if not better equipped than Reading maybe to do that. So yeah, you have to look at it and maybe sort of say, when we go into January, is that going to be the target to be pushing up there again? And how, because you look at it and they're going to have to go on quite a run now to make up a 10-point gap, which to do that you're going to have to win sort of 4 games in a row, and you probably still won't be up there quite just yet. So I don't think I haven't got them to hand, but I don't think they've won 3 games of 4. Definitely haven't won 4 in a row, I don't think, in the league this season. So they're going to have to do something they haven't done for quite a few months, and the quality's in the team to do it, and Stam seems to have found a settled team kind of. So you hope that might help going forwards, but yeah, it's going to take an impressive run from now until sort of March, April time to get back in the mix.
Yeah, I think it's something like we need to sort of average maybe 2 points per game up until now to the end of the season to sort of hit that sort of 75-point mark that you're looking for to get into the playoffs. Looking deeper into those 2 games and the Cardiff and Ipswich game, I want to talk a little bit about Yann Kermorgant, because obviously he made his comeback from injury against Middlesbrough at the end of October, having been out since the summer with hip and groin surgery. And he continued to sort of make sub-appearances in the next few games. But he's now completed 90 minutes in 4 of the last 5 games, and we did sort of expect that it would sort of take him some time to get back into the swing of things, but he is still yet to score. Do you think it is time perhaps for Stam to give him a bit of a break? And I'm not really sure what John Daly-Bodvarsson's got to do to be getting into the side. He's probably feeling very frustrated at the moment right now. Obviously he came on and scored against Barnsley, but he's been limited still to very short sub-appearances at the moment.
Yeah, and he was limited sort of to game time before Yann was even back, to be fair. I think he was obviously playing sort of the fluid front 3 rather than Bodvarsson, which maybe sort of suggests his standing within the squad. I think he's a decent enough option. Remember when they went to Brentford and he played and he got taken off at half time. He had a poor game up there and sort of struggled to get back in the team for a little while after that. And he said come off the bench and scored a couple of times. I think how it might have been, and then against like you say that Barnsley game, and he showed what he's about. And I'm sure over these 4 games, Yann's not going to play all of them, so he's going to get his chance at some point over the next couple of weeks, and it's up to him to take that spot. I think we say Yann, it was always going to take him time to try and get back up to the form he showed, and I think his return's been sort of underwhelming in terms of performances so far. He works hard and gives you what you want defensively, but in terms of actual scoring chances, he hasn't even had that many chances, let alone scored. He hasn't scored any goals yet, so he won't stay in the side forever if he's not scoring goals. That's essentially what he's there for, because the other guys are chipping in here and there, but you need a striker who's going to be scoring a few as well. And I'm sure he'll come good towards the second half of the season, but right now, as say, like we just mentioned, they need the points on the board, and I'm sure he'll give everyone in the squad a chance to prove that they should be the ones starting. And Bodvarsson will probably start, you'd imagine, maybe two games each, him and Yann, and then it's up to them to prove that they should be the one that's in the team going forward. So they're the two options that they've got at the moment, and neither of them you could say have been 100% convincing this season.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Bodvarsson's not the best striker in the world, but he has scored this season. Obviously, it's a bit confusing when you see they brought him in the summer. Obviously, they were very keen to get a striker in on deadline day. That didn't happen, so he was sort of the main acquisition up front in a sense, and he's not really had that many opportunities.
Yeah, but you also look back to last season, and you think he only scored sort of 3 or 4 goals the whole of last season, so you maybe wonder if he was brought in as an extra body up front, but with the idea to maybe play a Luco up front or to play Barrow up front and see if that would work out. And I mean, they've shown flashes of it, but I don't think that's a sort of a plan to use every week going forwards. I think they need a focal point, this team, and they've tried. Let's say they tried it without them. They've tried it with Bodvarsson. They tried it with Yann, and we haven't managed to get consistent results yet. So, yeah, when you say he was brought in and perhaps hasn't been given the chances he would have liked, obviously he's on a high as well. He's off to the World Cup in the summer, so you'd imagine that he's going to be full of confidence from that. And he's got a few goals. I'm sure he'll get probably a couple of games over this Christmas period. And if he can score in those games, then I think he's got every chance of cementing his spot in the starting 11 again, because he's worked so hard up front, and he's a great player to have in the team. But goals have been the thing that have let him down the last couple of years, really. Yeah, I mean, it certainly wouldn't surprise me if they weren't looking for another striker in January. Mm.
Speaking of the transfer window, we've got a couple of since we last recorded, there have been a couple of transfer rumours, including the one that just won't go away about Liam Moore, West Ham, the latest club to be linked with him. Do you think this is a genuine worry for Reading that they might lose him, or is it simply a case of newspapers sort of picking up on the fact that he is one of the best defenders in this division and linking him to a move to the top flight?
Yeah, he's sort of a topic of conversation at most press conferences, to be fair. He came up again yesterday, and sort of said it is concerning that they might end up losing him, but obviously for now the window's not open yet, so there's been no bids or anything, but he's someone that's bound to attract interest. Like Yap said, he's one of the best players in their squad, and it's only natural that people are going to look at them. But he also pointed out that he's just signed a new contract, so it's up to his decision whether you say to him you've got to stay now until at least the end of the season, or if the club decide they want to sell him and get the money in and replace him with someone. But that's a bit of a gamble, because you can't. I think it's hard to find someone as good as Liam Moore at this stage of the season, and whether it's obviously going to take big money, but you look at the club's link with him, and I just can't see him going to West Ham being first choice, just because his lack of experience in the Premier League, and obviously Moyes is there on a relatively short-term contract, and whether he would decide to bring in a Championship centre-back as good as we know Liam Moore is. He's still not proven in the Premier League, and it would be a bit of a risk for a side that's battling to stay up in the Premier League to go and pluck Liam Moore out and put him in the first team. And I'm not sure if Liam Moore would necessarily want to go there and sit on the bench. So there might be a club out there that would interest him, but from my point of view, I don't see too much logic in him going to West Ham at this point in the season. But obviously money talks essentially, and if an offer did come in, then it would obviously be a lucrative one for him and his family, and one that he'd probably think about. But yeah, I'm not sure he'd go in there and be definitely a first choice starter straight away. So maybe that's something that could play into Reading's hands, that they could convince him to stay until at least the summer.
Yeah, I think one promising sign is that he does seem very, very settled, obviously with a family here as well, and he signed a new 4-year contract in the summer. So as you say, it would take a lot of money to take him away from the Madejski Stadium. Perhaps an equally worrying rumour is that there's been quite strong suggestions in the last couple of days that academy boss Lee Heron is set to join the youth setup at Arsenal. Does this seem likely to you, and how big a blow would this be if Heron were to move to Arsenal?
Yeah, it sounds like that's pretty much a done deal. That's something we also spoke about with Yap yesterday. He sort of said that, similar to his players, really, when your club's doing well, bringing through youth players, people are going to come and look at the people that are doing that, and it seems like that's the case again. And yeah, he's obviously had in charge of the academy for the last sort of 18 months or so, and he's been doing a good job with it. And yeah, it looks like Arsenal have come in, and that's obviously another big move for him, as it is for the players. If someone comes in from a big club, and I think Arsenal, they're revamping all their sort of backroom situation. They've got Per Mertesacker coming in the academy. I think he's going to go and work alongside him, and it's a problem that Reading would rather not have, trying to find a replacement. But they've got such great academy routes there. I'm sure they can get past it. And say, we spoke with Yap about it. He said he doesn't have too much contact with Lee Heron directly. He sort of deals more with Brian Heverin, and yeah, he's sort of been kept in the loop that Arsenal are interested in Lee. And like I say, it looks like that's pretty much a done thing now. So it's onto the next one, looking around who can come in and replace him. And it's just another problem that they would rather not have, especially with the transfer window coming up, I'd imagine.
I mean, I certainly don't blame Lee Heron for taking a move to one of the biggest clubs in the country. So just hopefully he won't take any of our good young players with him. Hopefully. So in terms of players coming in, there's been sort of one new name mentioned in the frame in the last couple of weeks, and that's Cardiff's Declan John. He's currently on loan at Rangers, but his contract is up in the summer at Cardiff, so they might look to get a fee for him in January. He's obviously a left back, and obviously Jordan Abita is also injured out for the season. But surely this probably wouldn't bode well for Omar Richards if Declan John were to come in.
No, I say it's not what we've heard too much about. But yeah, it's a rumour that's been going around, and you look at it and you maybe wonder if it is possibly agents again, like we've said a few times. I mean, Reading, they've lost their left back in Abita, and they've struggled to fill that gap a bit. And left back is possibly a spot that you'd look at and go, Reading need to improve it. But like you say, they've got Richards here. He's just signed a new deal, and you'd like to think he might be given a few games. I mean, he played well enough at Derby, and he's shown enough when he played in the Cup as well. And that left back spot, I can't see Tyler Blackett grabbing it really. It doesn't. You can imagine he probably would have done by now if he was going to. And I think Reading need Bakuna in midfield, so that leaves that left back spot open. Maybe they are looking at bringing one in January. But yeah, that would bump Richards down the order again, which would seem strange given they've just tied him down. I mean, he's at a good enough age to sort of give him a chance, I think, in the team. And over Christmas he'll probably play. He'll probably get a chance, and it'll be down to him to, like we said about Bodvarsson, to take it. And yeah, I think left back, it could be somewhere they maybe do look at if he doesn't quite trust Richards yet to play those games, because it's a spot that they've been juggling with ever since Beta's injury. And I'm not as good as Bakuna is there. I'd much prefer him in midfield, and I think he brings so much more to the midfield, so I don't think it's something they can persist with, playing Gunter left back and Bakuna right back. So that's an issue they need to try and sort. And I think I get the sense most Reading fans would rather that was solved by playing Richards there, though, than bringing somebody else in. So hopefully we get to see that over the next couple of weeks, and then they won't need to worry about that in January.
Yeah, I certainly agree with you in the fact that Bakuna should be deployed in midfield rather than at right back. And obviously we saw Tyler Blackett at left back last week, and Omar Richards on the bench. It'll be interesting to see which one of them starts on Saturday against Burton. Looking ahead to that game, then obviously Burton currently 22nd in the Championship table, having moved off the bottom last weekend with a 1-0 win at Bolton Wanderers. That was, however, only their second win in 14 games, and what's been a pretty difficult campaign for them so far. Lloyd Dyer is their top scorer, but he's only scored 4 goals this season. They've got the worst goal difference in the division with -26. I think Birmingham have only scored fewer, and Bolton have only conceded more. So this really is a game that Reading really have to win if they've got to keep any of those sort of slim playoff hopes alive, haven't they?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one that you look at as a sort of a home banker. I'm sure Burton will make it tough, though. I mean, you say they've let in the most goals, and I think their record, they're a lot better away from home this season than at home. I think they're quite tough to break down. They haven't conceded. I think they've conceded a lot more of their goals at home than they have away. They've got a decent-ish record for conceding goals away, so they don't tend to score that many, but they're going to be tough to break down. We've seen Reading struggle to break these teams down plenty of times over the last couple of years, so if they can get an early goal, it could change everything. But I'm sure they'll come in and they'll pack the defence and make it difficult to break them down, and it's up to Reading to find a way to do that. I mean, yeah, it's a game that when you look at it and you look at the games coming up, this is one that they've got to be getting the points in if they do want to push up the league and find a way to win it anyhow, really. I mean, it's obviously the 500th game at Madejski. It's going to be a good crowd in there, so you got to hope that might push them on a little bit more as well, and try and get some of the fans back on side who've maybe stayed away the last few months. And yeah, so it's a big occasion, and it's it's a good chance to get a decent performance on the ball, but I think it could be a bit of a struggle for the first sort of 20-30 minutes. I'm going to envisage that now, because Burton have been losing their games, but they haven't really been getting thrashed or anything too much too recently. So yeah, they're doing a brilliant job. I think Burton, in terms of budget, to stay in the league is a massive achievement for them. So
absolutely,
they'll be fighting hard for every point that they can get, and I'm sure they'll be no different on Saturday. But we saw Reading managed to get past them fairly easily twice last year, and I don't think they're too different to then. So Burton, that is. So yeah, they've got to try and go with a similar sort of attitude to that one and get an early goal, and it will just change everything, I think.
Yeah, I think it was 3-0 at the match last season, and 4-2 at their place on the final day of the season. And as you mentioned, that was obviously the 500th game at the Madejski Stadium this weekend, which should be a superb atmosphere for all fans. I think it's £5 for even the away fans as well. So hopefully the team can sort of celebrate with a win. I think we released a stats piece on the website this week, and Reading haven't lost in their first 100th, 200th, 300th or 400th game. So hopefully that trend can continue.
Yeah, I mean that's a good stat. I mean it's a game. It's an opponent you probably would have picked out if you want to continue that sort of stats. It's a team that you should be beating, and it's down to them to go and perform. And like Yap was saying yesterday, they haven't had too many sellouts recently, so it's a nice occasion. And I think it is all sold out now. Like you say, it's £5 for the away fans as well, which I think is brilliant from the club, and it should just make a great atmosphere all around the stadium. It's just down to the team to rise to it and perform now. And like I say, if they can do that, then hopefully it'll attract a few more fans to come back again, which obviously the last few months have been poor attendance wise. So this is a chance to show the fans that they are still going in the right direction. And so it's going to be a great occasion. And if they can continue with that start, I'm sure they'll be very happy.
Definitely. How are we looking injury-wise ahead of the game? Any new concerns or any players edging closer to a return?
That's good news on the injury front as well, Ray. There's no new ones that we know of, and three men could be back in. Swift, McCleary and Evans are all potentially back in the squad on Saturday. So it's going to be great for Yap to have some more options to pick from, and think. Obviously, they won't all come in and start, and there's no guarantee that all three of them will definitely be involved. But I think they're all going to be involved at some point over Christmas, which is a big boost. All three of them have been out for quite a while, and I think just in midfield has been the issue really most of the season. Really, they don't really have too many options to change things. Like we mentioned, I think a couple of weeks ago, if George Evans is back, and it's just another option to bring on and maybe see out a game, or just try and keep the ball a bit in midfield, and Swifty to try and pick the defences. And McCleary struggled a little bit, I think, for most of the year, but when he's on top form, he's still a threat in this league. So to have all three of them back involved in the squad just gives more options. And we've been lauding the fact they've had an unchanged team for the last few weeks. It seems a bit strange to say that, but given how many games they've got coming up, I think they need the quality to be able to rotate, and I think they were light in a couple of areas. So to get all those three back would be great. And the only sort of question mark thing at the moment is Vito Minoni. Obviously had the death of his mother this week, so I think he's only due back in training today. So Yap's going to have a chat with him and see whether he's sort of ready to play or not. So there's no guarantee he'll be playing on Saturday. So that's the only sort of question mark from last weekend's game. I think the rest of them sound like they're good to go, and then they've got these three coming back in. So the squad's being boosted around Christmas time, which is a bonus when you tend to pick up injuries. So for now, at least, it's a more positive picture, I think, on the injury front. Yeah,
it's certainly a nice change to have players coming back compared to a couple of months ago when we were sort of talking about seemed to be 3 players injured each week a couple of months ago. But as for the prediction league, then I'm pleased to say you're now 2 points ahead of Wim at the top of the table. I think you predicted the draw against Cardiff.
Correct.
So you're on 13 points, then it's Wim on 11, Mark and Westy are on 10, Johnny's on 9, and Handbags is on 8. What are you going to go for this weekend against Burton to try and keep your lead at the top of the table?
I imagine most people are going to say a win, but I think I'm going to go 2-0. I don't see too many goals in the Reading team at the moment, and given how they played last week, I think Burton will make it tough to break them down. But I think I'll go for a 2-0, fairly comfortable win, he says. But we'll see. Yeah, we'll go 2-0.
Yeah, I think it would be nice to get obviously a big result. I think Burton, obviously one of only 2 teams that Yap Stam's Reading side scored 4 against, obviously Burton and Derby early in the season. We are, of course, taking a 2-week break for Christmas, and so the next show will be before the FA Cup game against Stevenage, I believe. And obviously, in that time, Reading play Bristol City on Boxing Day. That's away. Barnsley away on December the 30th, and Birmingham at home on January the 2nd. I won't ask you for your exact predictions, but presuming that Reading do beat Burton on Saturday, what points tally do you think they should really be aiming for those following 3 games?
If they're serious about top 6, I think they need to win 2 or 3 of them. 3 of them probably. 3 of the 4. I think they have to. They're games that you look at and you go, they've got to be getting points in them if they are serious about pushing up the table. So, I'm not entirely confident they'll get them, but I'll go look at that Bristol City game, and I think they'll end up losing that one. I think Bristol City are a lot stronger this season, and the other 2 games, though, I think are going to be pretty tight, and it will be down to taking their chances. I mean, Birmingham, they're at the bottom of the league, but they'll be pretty similar to Burton, I'd imagine. It's down to breaking them down, and like I say, I've seen Reading at home this season have been poor. I think they got more points away from home Reading this year than at home. So, yeah, I think sort of 7 to 9 points has to be the minimum, really, when you look at who they're playing.
Yeah, I think certainly we need to be, if we are serious about trying to get back into that promotion mix, I think certainly that Barnsley game and the Birmingham game we should be winning. Obviously, Bristol City, as you say, is a much more tougher affair. Obviously, they beat Man United last night in the Carabao Cup, and obviously doing very well in the league this season as well. So I think I'd probably take a point against Bristol City, but certainly should be beating Barnsley and Birmingham. Good stuff. What can we expect then from the working in paper over the festive period?
Yeah, so we spoke with Yap yesterday, and also Paul McShane, who sort of asked him about Liam Moore and where he sort of ranks compared to the guys he's played with, and we'll have that up over the coming days. Not entirely sure when yet, but yeah, we'll have stuff from Yap as well ahead of the game on Saturday, and we'll be at the Burton game, and then yeah, there's obviously lots of games coming up, so it's a busy time. That'll be up on wokenpaper.com and on my Twitter at Tom J Crocker, and place for that.
Brilliant. So yeah, definitely a hectic period. Obviously, a quick plug for all things Tyler's End as well. Our Advent Calendar series is still going strong. Alex McCarthy's behind door 21 today. And all throughout this week, we've been recalling our favourite Madejski Stadium memories, as it is, of course, the 500th game there this weekend. Also, if you haven't listened to the Christmas special podcast from Monday, neither myself or Tom were there, unfortunately, but I would thoroughly recommend you to go and listen to it nonetheless. Mark and the team have handed out a variety of awards, from the Player of the Year award to the Hal Robson Carnot Underachiever award, plus many, many more. That is on iTunes and all other podcast providers now. And make sure you stay tuned to all of our socials as well. Tom, thank you very much for joining me. Have a wonderful Christmas.
And yourself, Merry Christmas. Thanks for this year as well.
Yeah, it's been good. And Merry Christmas to all the listeners as well. Hopefully we will be back in the new year, hopefully, with 3 out of 3 wins plus the Burton game as well. And so all that's left to say is thanks for listening, and come on you Oz.
Get social with the boys
Find them on Twitter
at the Tilehurst End
and facebook.com/the Tilehurst End.